Καλησπέρα. Είμαι ο Τίμος Κouremenos, δημοσιογράφος τεχνολογίας και θα μιλήσουμε σήμερα με τον David Williams, co-founder and CEO της Nomadx, τον Goncalo Hall, co-founder του Remote Work Movement podcast και με τον Nacho Rodríguez, τον founder του repeople.co. Η συζήτηση μας θα γίνει στα αγγλικά και θα μιλήσουμε για το πόσο η Ελλάδα είναι ελκυστική για τους ψηφιακούς νομάδες και τον ψηφιακό τουρισμό γενικότερα. Οπότε, let me switch to English. Guys, I'm very glad that you are here with me in this amazing panel. Hello, Nacho. Hello, Dave. Hello, Goncalo. How are you today?
Hello, good morning.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
So, where are you right now? Each one. Nacho, you are in?
I'm in the Gran Canaria Islands, in the Canary Islands, off the coast from Morocco.
And Dave is, I think, what's behind you?
I'm in the background's from Lisbon, Portugal, but I live in the Algarve in the south of Portugal. I moved from the United States here back in 2017, taking advantage of their golden visa opportunity where I invested in real estate and then got residency here. So yeah, that using this as a home base for my digital nomad journeys.
Mm-hmm. And Goncalo?
I'm in Madeira, the digital nomad village at Ponta do Sol here in Portugal.
Nice. So let's start from the basics. What is digital nomad? What is a digital nomad?
Well, we were discussing before we started in the backstage that I think that there's different types of digital nomads. So the traditional digital nomad, it's someone that travels intensively and works it's a knowledge worker. So he takes advantage of, taking his job with him. But in the recent years, I think it's fair that we define also the term of remote worker, meaning that professional could be an independent professional or working for a company that also is allowed to work remotely, but doesn't travel that intensively. And recently, due to the pandemic, we can define a new term that I like to call the corporate nomad. So those employees from large corporations that have received the freedom to work from home or work from anywhere and are taking advantage of that freedom to relocate temporarily. And potentially after the pandemic is over, they will keep that freedom, so they will decide to relocate somewhere else.
And Dave, how difficult is to do that lifestyle?
I would say it's a big transition for a lot of people because I think traditionally people are used to the 9 to 5. They're used to working from home, maybe at a remote workspace nearby their homes. Typically, people are accumulating a lot of material things throughout their lives. So I think when people make the switch to becoming a digital nomad or living the nomadic lifestyle, one of the first steps a lot of people make is actually selling all of their belongings or putting all of their belongings into storage and going on a life journey, which could be for a month or 2 months, for a year or multiple years. Myself, I started the journey over a year and I ended up extending it for about 4 or 5 years until I ultimately moved here to Portugal as a home base so I could actually spend more time traveling throughout Europe. So I think for each person, it's a little bit different. Some people, if they are corporate, they may retain their home base, but travel for a month or 2 at a time. Typically, we see people traveling on average about 2.5 to 3 months per location. We find a lot of the nomads, they like to travel slowly so they can get their work done. They can enjoy the location. They can get to meet people and almost live like a local instead of as a tourist.
Goncalo, based on what do you manage to go to a city and live as a digital nomad or create a digital nomad community?
Well, we are here in Madeira. It was the first thing we need to make sure that we have is actually internet. We need high quality internet. Without internet, there is no nomads because although in the pictures you see people working from the beach, the reality is as we usually work from co-working spaces or from home or from co-living spaces. So internet is a given. And the second thing for me is community. So I say I don't travel to places, I travel between communities. So I went to Canggu in Bali, then I came to Lisbon, then I went to Las Palmas where Nacho is. And the reason I went there, it's not because Nacho is great, he is. It's actually because he managed to build a great community in Las Palmas where I meet like-minded people. So to be honest, you can have the most beautiful place in the world. If there is no community, I'm probably not going there. Or if I go, I will get very, very bored after 1 week. So it's all about internet, community, and making sure that we can mingle with the locals. So I don't want to be in the bubble. To be honest, it happened in Bali. I want to get to know the locals. I want to get to know the culture. I want to go to the local restaurants. So having, let's say, a tourism bubble as well, a place where only made for tourists, like, for example, a lot of places right now in the south of Portugal, in the south of Croatia, in the south maybe of Greece as well. We don't like to go to these very high buildings and 5-star hotels. I'm looking to live more like a local. You see here in my background, this is actually my background. This is a small village. And the reason I'm here is because we can build a community and mingle with the locals. So yeah, those are the 3 big things.
Great. So, Nacho, can you tell us a little bit about Repeople and what is that you do, so the people can know you better?
Yeah, well, Repeople.co, it's a company that has been working for the last almost 6 years to develop an ecosystem for remote workers in the Canary Islands. So basically, we started opening a co-working space focused on remote workers. Then we started opening co-living, so flexible accommodation. We organize a yearly international conference about remote work. It takes place normally here in the Canary Islands, and that we're preparing for this year, for September also. But also we advise both the government and also the companies that actually create that ecosystem in order for them to understand what is this movement about, where are the opportunities, and how can we tackle them.
And you, Dave, about your platform Nomadx. It's one of the biggest platforms in Europe, I think, right?
Yeah, I started my career. I've actually been in the digital space since the late 90s. I've started and sold several companies. And then after we sold the last companies, when I started my digital nomad journey, along that journey, I realized one of the biggest issues for the nomads is finding affordable housing. Because what we typically find is there's a lot of Airbnbs, but Airbnbs are really oriented towards short-term travel and for tourism. They really don't offer a good solution for mid-term travel or for professionals because it's typically like twice as expensive as you would expect. So we started a platform called Nomadx that was started back in 2017. And we recently merged with another platform in Europe called flatio.com, which is based out of the Czech Republic. But now we've got about 11,000 listings in about 18 different countries throughout Europe, with major focus on expansion throughout Europe over the next year. So yeah, we're just super focused on the digital nomad and on the remote worker, trying to find places for them to stay, minimum 2 weeks up to a year, but with typical reservations lasting about 2.5 to 3 months, with costs at about 50% on average versus Airbnb. So it's very affordable, for the nomads who tend to be minimalist. They tend to be very cost conscious. And so we're trying to deliver a solution that really meets their needs.
And you, Goncalo?
What?
What is it that you do for the digital nomad community, and what is it that you do with the remote work movement podcast?
Got it. Awesome. Let's do this. So basically, I became a consultant of Madeira. So Madeira hired me to come here and start the Digital Nomad Village. So basically creating the whole community, the whole things that we need. Like I'm right here talking with you from the co-working space we built for the community, which is free for the next 6 months. So this is what I'm doing in the future. I'm just helping governments and locations to help start these communities. And trust me, a lot of countries are doing this mistake of promoting the whole country without thinking about the local communities. This is a big mistake. And I think Greece, Croatia, and other countries are going on that way, trying to start with the macro and then hoping that by charity, the micro will be built. This is not how it works. You need to do the other way around. So I'm building the micro. I came to a village. I'm building the whole community here. I'm helping the local government to build this community, and then we can replicate across the whole island and even across the whole country. So in the future, I'm just advising other governments to do the same. with this experience we did here with the Digital Nomad Village. So yeah, this is what I will be doing for the next years, just helping governments to set up these digital nomad villages around the world, and even using this as a decentralization tool for people to move out from the big centers of tourism, from the big centers of people like Athens, for example, and come to places that are less populated, and even that may have some issues into trying to attract tourists because everyone goes to the same places. So yeah, this is what I'll be doing in the future, and I'm having a blast making these communities grow and start.
Yeah, and Tim, just as an example, like we're partnering with Goncalo. So whereas Goncalo is working directly with the government, he's working on the community. We're partnering with him to help provide a housing infrastructure. So, trying to find listings that are more affordable than Airbnb and really catering to this type of consumer.
Yeah, there is two things that are very important here, which is we partner with most of the local businesses, but also it's important to partner with global companies that are in this market. So we also help doing this. We may have very big news besides Nomadx coming here to Madeira, because let's face it, if a big company like Nomadx is betting in Madeira, or a big company like Nomadx is going to Las Palmas, this is quite big for the local community and for local community of digital nomads. So this is also a big part of what we are doing here, partnering with the right companies, both local, which is very important. All the activities are local, based with locals, but also globally around the world.
Yeah, and offering incentives, so making it very affordable. So whereas Airbnb might charge 15% to the local host, we're partnering with Goncalo. We're actually offering the platform for free to the local host and a reduced cost to the guest. So you're trying to really ignite some of these local activities, and then also provide a lot of value back to the hosts locally who are struggling at the moment due to the lack of tourism.
And what are the demographics of a digital nomad, or a corporate nomad, or a digital migrant?
Nacho, you are in this business for the longest time. Tell us everything.
Nacho, you're on mute.
But unmuted, maybe.
I think that things are changing quite a bit. I think that we should talk about pre-pandemic and after or during pandemic, that as we are still are on it, right? And as I mentioned at the beginning, Las Palmas de Gran Canaria has been a digital nomad hub for almost 6-7 years already. It's obviously been growing a lot, but we have been putting our efforts into attracting not only digital nomads, but also more the profiles of the remote workers and the corporate nomads. Why so? Very simple. I think that it's easy to compare, the Canary Islands and Greece. Greece has a big tourism industry behind. I looked at the numbers. I think 2018, it was like 37 billion euros or something like that. I'm not sure if it's totally accurate. And almost like 28 or 29 million visitors per year. That's a huge industry. And obviously this industry right now, it's totally stopped, right? So all the countries that depend heavily on tourism are looking for alternatives. In our opinion, attracting talent, and with attracting talent due to remote work and the possibility that they can work remotely for their companies, it's a way to substitute the economic impact of tourism by a high quality type of visitors that not necessarily has to be there 1 month or 2, but could relocate 6 months. Or like Dave case, he's definitely located and staying in Portugal right now, coming from the US. If we look at the economic impact and we look at the salaries of the average tech worker, we can assume that it's around 100,000 euros worldwide, that they had the average salary of a tech worker. And if we think about the volume of the economic impact of tourism and divided by the capacity of expenditure that a tech worker has, we could actually substitute a big part of that massive tourism by a small amount of tech workers, because the impact is equivalent.
So, Dave, based on your platform, is Greece attractive for digital migrants? So far?
Yeah, so it's interesting because I feel like Greece is very well known as a tourist destination. And before this, before joining you all over the last week, I polled all of the nomads in our community. We've got about 12,000 that are active in our travel community online through Facebook. We run a Facebook group called Nomadx Travel Community. And based on my research and also just looking at Nomad List, if you're not familiar, you should check out nomadlist.com. And I looked on there for the top cities, and just for example, Athens ranks #1 in Greece, but it's only 278 ranked on Nomad List. The next one from that is Rhodes, ranked 315. Even Santorini is 1151. Mykonos 1298. So obviously there's a lot of improvement opportunities. I think a lot of the nomads see Greece as more of a tourist destination, a place to go for a week or two. And some of the feedback I got, just to highlight some of the things, #1 issue that is seen from the digital nomads is infrastructure. So this is the tech infrastructure. They've had a lot of issues with Wi-Fi in the past, where the Wi-Fi seems very slow to the point where they don't want to continue working there. They need to go to other locations. They found like the taxi service is not very good. They're all about promoting the legalization of ride-sharing apps like Uber, and then also the need for affordable month-to-month housing. This is all kind of #1 for infrastructure. #2 is improved community. I think a lot of the nomads are not finding community there. This is a lot of what Goncalo is talking about, the work he's doing on Madeira Island, but improved community, and then the interest in having a digital nomad village came back as #2. #3 is government incentives. They want to see a government that's actually incentivizing them to come there, whether that's for entrepreneurship type activities or startup friendly. Portugal does a very, very good job at this. And then #3, visa friendly options for non-residents. I think a lot of them, when they come into the Schengen zone, they can only stay for 3 months. So they would love the opportunity to have a 6-month tourist visa for non-EU passports. And then also having all of the regulations in English. So these are issues that they run into when they want to stay in Greece. So I think the biggest one is the tech infrastructure. #2, community. 3, government incentives. #4 is just visa-friendly options. Those are kind of the highlights in terms of the issues. And I think if you were to make improvements on that, we would see a big jump, because I think, Greece is a phenomenal location in terms of the weather, in terms of like the history and everything else. But there's some major issues that are preventing it from attracting the top digital nomads.
So, Goncalo, how difficult is to create a community of digital nomads in a city that has none, or a little one?
Well, it's just not building a community; it's bringing people here in the first place, right? What I found, like seeing what Nacho is doing, what Dave did with Nomadx in Lisbon, which was incredible work, and other places around the world. I think if you want to do it fast and well done, you need to have the public sector partnering with the private sector. So the public sector has the power and has the contacts to make things right very fast and with a big impact. Where the private, meaning us, digital nomads, we know what we want, we know what we miss. And the key in Madeira, the key in Las Palmas is actually, in my opinion, when this private sector start to get together with the public and we can both work together, then we can focus in creating several communities. And then it's just having a community leader, having someone like Nacho ruling the community in Las Palmas, because people go to Nacho, people see people who understand that they have a community in Las Palmas, and people will contact him, even if they don't stay in the co-living places. Nacho is one of the community leaders there. The same here in Madeira, people contact me and people come because they see we are building a community. And because of that people are just coming here because we have daily events. I was a little bit late for this call because we were in the networking coffee just here 1 minute from the co-working space, and I was just sending a picture to Nacho. So it takes time. You need a community leader. But if you want to do it well, I don't think one private person will be able to scale it fast. That's why most places take 3, 4, 5 years. For example, Bansko in Bulgaria, amazing community. It took them 3, 4, 5 years until being able to say we are a community. In Madeira, we took 2 months. And the reason why is that we work with the government. That just speed up the whole process. So if Greece wants to come and play around with the digital nomad community, I do think that the key of making it a success is to have the government, definitely, but also partnering with the locals. Governments have no idea what the digital nomads want. Zero. We see this in Greece, we see this in Croatia, we see this everywhere. They have no idea, and that's okay. That's why you should partner with the private sector. That's why you should partner with people that want to open co-living places. And Greece, I have a lot of contacts around Crete and other islands of people that are looking into this. They want to build co-living places, but they are afraid because there is no backing. It's hard. It's a capital-intensive business in the beginning. You have to invest in good shares, in everything. So I do think that the key to, if you want to go fast, if you want to make it well, the key is to bring the private sector with the public and hire digital nomads, or hire Nacho, or hire me, or hire anyone else that knows about this community, that knows about what you need to build, and then implemented it in Greece, or in some communities in Greece.
And I think along what Goncalo's saying, the initiative that Goncalo is working on is really kind of one of the first ones of its kind in Europe. Obviously, Nacho has been doing this for a long time, but to really activate a community like Madeira. He started the project in September. The project didn't launch till the beginning of February, and we've been getting a ton of press. Like, we've been getting press in Forbes and CNN. I mean, tons of journals are writing articles, and we've had, I think, interest is like over like close to 5,000 people have expressed interest in the initiative so far. Is that right, Goncalo? So it's been a huge success and a lot of momentum.
Yeah, we went to the other way around. Well, we don't have enough space for the people that want to come because, well, we are a village, not a city. So we're actually spreading out across Madeira. But again, the reason why this happened so fast, and actually we didn't start in September today, we started in December. So it took us 2 months to build everything. I came here back in September to do a conference and then talk about with the government. So we thought, hey, we should do something. But we only started in the 1st of December to build everything. So it took us 2 months to actually implement and prepare the whole village for people. But it's not easy. It's very work intensive as well. You do work, the person managing these communities, trust me, they will work 12 hours a day at least and be always on. So it's not an easy job, but it's very fulfilling and you can really change the whole village or the whole city with it.
How big is the global community around?
Nobody knows.
Nobody knows. So in Europe, what are the numbers, average?
I mean, go ahead, Nacho.
It's really, really hard to guess because nobody has been properly measuring this so they can give an objective answer. But we can talk about growth. And the growth over the last year has been exponential. And I think because of what I mentioned before, the fact that a lot of corporations, a lot of companies, the stigma around remote work is totally gone. Now it's totally fine to have a meeting on Zoom and work remotely and work with distributed teams. Before the pandemic, that was not the case. So we're going to see a lot of influx of new remote workers going to the market and evaluating if they want to stay where they are, if they want to stay in Dublin, if they want to stay in London, in Paris, in Barcelona, or if they're going to want to relocate to places where they can find a better quality of life. So we talk about, what are they going to look for? So connectivity is definitely a must, right? The community, it's also a must. But also, finding the right balance and the right quality of life is very important. And I think that Greece, in that sense, can offer a lot because it's already a huge tourism hub. And that's for a reason, because it has natural values to showcase. If Greece manages to solve some of the problems that were mentioned before in terms of the connectivity, in terms of building a community, in terms of activating the ecosystem, I think it could be in a very good position in a couple of years.
Just adding up what Nacho said, here 50% of the nomads that arrived to Madeira are new nomads, people that started during the pandemic.
So is this something that will continue growing from your point of view, correct?
Yes, many people want to come, but they can't come yet because of the restrictions. For example, US is closed for Europe. At least Portugal, we don't have a proper nomad visa. So US, Brazil, the whole America, the whole Asia is closed and people want to come. We have more than 1,500 people that want to come from the US, for example. So once the borders open post-pandemic, people will use this freedom they just got to travel the world.
Yeah, I think it's really important to realize if we just kind of take a step back and take a look at what's happening here, I think we would all realize that we're in the midst of one of the largest global revolutions that we've ever experienced in our lifetime. We have all these trends, the adoption of Google, the adoption of Facebook, the adoption of the mobile device, and cloud computing and fast Wi-Fi. I think fast Wi-Fi is super important. There's even companies like SpaceX that are launching Starlink, which is going to provide internet service to anywhere throughout the world. So location won't be as much of an issue, but we're in the midst of a major global revolution in the way people live, work, and travel the world. And this is a great opportunity, I think, for countries not only to adopt new visa policies to attract these kind of workers, but also to activate at the local level. We think this is going to be one of the biggest shifts that we'll ever experience in our lifetimes. And so right now is really the time where there's a massive buildup. I'd almost look at it like a tsunami or a tidal wave that's heading your direction, because there's so many people that are now remote workers. A lot of them all want to become digital nomads. At the moment, they're all working nomadic, typically either in their home office or about an hour or two away from their home office due to the pandemic. But all of those local nomads are soon going to be experimenting with this new global nomadic movement, and which is going to be massive. Whereas before, we've seen very much an early adopter market, and that's why it's hard to really measure how big this market is. But we think post-pandemic, I mean, some estimates are as high as by the year 2035 to be 1 billion digital nomads. We're seeing in the US, the number is estimated around 10 million, but it could be even much bigger than that. So at the moment, yeah, we think there's a lot of pent-up demand, and we think post-pandemic 2022, it's going to be massive. Maybe one of the biggest movements we've ever seen in our lifetime.
Tim, I would like to introduce briefly, connecting to what Dave was just mentioning, the concept of who in Europe is going to become the next Florida, right? So Florida meaning the place where all wealthy Americans retire because they can find their, great weather, great quality of living. The question now is that now you don't have to retire to move to Florida. Now you can move to Florida at any point in time. So who's going to become the Florida of Europe? I think definitely Greece has something to say there because he can offer the quality of life. Portugal, Spain, the Canary Islands. So we're all going to be competing. I think it's a great topic of the event today in order to become and to materialize this opportunity.
Let's hope so. And are there any digital nomad families? We have a question from the audience. Have you met digital nomad families?
Yes, I've met a couple, and nowadays I think that's another thing that it's going to grow also exponentially as education. Now it's also going virtual. Before it was not a thing. A lot of the nomad families that I've met before did homeschooling because one of their members was a teacher, and they did homeschooling and while they traveled. But the whole concept of education, it's totally going to be disrupted by this crisis. It was already under a question mark, and now with the pandemic, it's the transition is going to be even faster. So as those virtual schools evolve, a lot of families are going to take the freedom to also relocate. Maybe they won't travel as fast. But I personally, from the families that I've met, I think it's an amazing opportunity for even for the kids, because they can discover the world while they travel with their parents.
Yeah, we see the families really as a second wave because I think it's there have been some families doing it. They're very, very early adopters. I think now, with the pandemic happening, there's a lot more families that have expressed interest. I think, Goncalo could even tell you about the families that are visiting Ponta do Sol, but we've been getting a lot of requests from families. They want to know if other families are going to be there, how they're going about doing it. Generally, what we've seen in terms of our market is most of the digital nomads tend to be 25 to 35, pretty evenly split between men and women. Second biggest group is 35 to 45. And then we also are starting to see a lot more people coming through that where maybe their kids have gone to college, they're empty nesters, they're looking to make a transition into retirement, but they don't want to retire full time. They want to be able to work remotely, earn income, yet have a little bit more of a luxurious retirement style lifestyle. And so that's another segment we're seeing is growing, and even retirees as well. I think everyone's looking for a lower cost of living, better quality of life. And if they can find that by being a digital nomad or retiring in locations like here in Portugal or Greece or in Spain, we're seeing a lot of interest in that. And I think, especially once the travel restrictions are lifted, we're going to see a huge influx coming from the Americas.
Yeah, on our committee and selection, we have around 10 families changing information. We have some kids playing around here, the co-working space sometimes. And yeah, that's okay, that's cool. For example, we have a VC from Russia that just brought a whole family, wife and 3 kids, and they're always looking for big houses. We also have smaller families like single moms coming. The challenge here is to create also services for them, and specific babysitters or some kindergarten options, international kindergarten options in the future. Right now, they understand we don't have that in place. We do have some contacts from babysitters that they can use. But actually, it's fun to see sometimes on the beach, just families playing around together, and they use that as a social time for the kids as well. So I think families will be big, at least for the short-term nomadism, like 2-3 months, where they just escape the winter in Europe and they come to Madeira, to Canary Islands, to enjoy the summer in the better location. And maybe in the future, who knows, move there permanently.
Yeah, I've even met a digital nomad who's 16 years old, who dropped out of high school and is a Ruby on Rails programmer traveling the world. So this really, it's really age isn't as much of a factor as long as you can earn income. Any person can really do this.
So to conclude, except from the infrastructure, what is the most difficult thing that you have to manage, and what is the one thing that you should advise to each government who wants to be in a digital nomad scene? What is it?
I traveled the world, and at least for me, it's the visa situation. Like when we were around Asia, the whole visa situation is quite stressful. So moving with tourist visas from place to place, that becomes a huge part of what we do with when we travel. So for myself personally, as a nomad, the visa situation is the most challenging one.
Well, in my opinion, obviously, apart from the visa issue, which visas, we have to think that they are totally not updated. The concept of visa was built around protecting jobs for locals, right? But remote workers, they travel with their job, right? And they actually often generate new jobs for the local communities, or at least share knowledge and share opportunities, right? So that's definitely a must. We already talked about the necessity of community building, and the reason why community is so important is super simple. If you relocate to another city, another place, another country, you want to feel like home. And the only way you can feel like home is that you can interact with other people. We're a social species, so we want to socialize with other like-minded people like us. And that's when we feel home, and that's when we stay the longest. Otherwise, we stay like for a week as a tourist, and that's what we don't want. And the third big issue is taxes. So again, the taxes are meant to be for, they're not updated. The way the tax system works in every country, actually, it's not connected to the digital economy. It's not connected to remote workers that want to relocate. Because if you're living in Greece, why should you pay taxes in London? There should be a new way of taxing people in terms of where they reside, and in a flexible and a more digital way. So that's definitely a huge problem to solve, because in other means, all countries will have to agree on how to do it, and that's definitely not going to be easy. But certainly, we're going to be some movements in that direction.
Yeah, and I would say also, from my perspective, we're seeing a lot of different countries initiate new digital nomad visas, remote work visas. These are popping up all over the press. But the problem is, it's not just about being able to get a visa, it's being able to activate it at a local level, like Nacho just mentioned. Because even if you can get a visa for a year and there's no other nomads there, who really cares, So I think, between what Nacho said and then also what Goncalo is doing, for example, on Madeira Island, are super important, because I think there needs to be activities connecting the public and private sector initiatives to make sure you're giving these remote work travelers exactly what they need, not just what the government thinks they need from a regulatory perspective.
Yeah, I say always, we travel for the places, we stay for the community.
And one final word to conclude, because we are up to time.
Well, I would just like to congratulate the Delphi Economic Forum, because I looked at the agenda. Unfortunately, I don't know Greek, so I'm not going to be able to enjoy some of the content that is going to be discussed in the rest of the panels. But definitely, this is a very good initiative, and in my opinion, in the right directions from the topics that I see that are going to be discussed today. So I envision a bright future for Greece in this segment.
I would say if there are any, if there are any hosts or people that have apartments or villas that they're looking to rent, you can just go to nomadx.com/host. You can easily list your property there. We can onboard you, make you part of the network. But yeah, I feel like this is an initiative. It's very, very well timed. But the key is, yeah, just forward momentum, get this set up, maybe do some work with Nacho or Goncalo to help really consult and make sure you get this done right. And I think you've got all the right pieces in place. It's just a matter of packaging it together in a way that's going to be attractive for the nomads. And yeah, I feel like this is a really big opportunity for you all. So just happy to be part of the conversation here.
Well, I personally think that Greece has a huge opportunity here, but it's not a given that you will make it successfully. Meaning, not just Greece, but the whole south of Europe. This is the biggest opportunity we had in the last 20 years to actually revitalize the local economies. So Greece, Albania, Montenegro, Croatia, south of Italy, the whole countries that are known as the poorest one, now we can play around and bring all the rich ones because we have all the conditions and the great weather, which is fun. It's fun. We can change everything now. But there is a lot of work involved, a lot of work. And this is what Greece and all these countries I mentioned we have to do. Even Portugal itself, the country, it's not working actively on it. They think they will, but they never know. So I think the fast movers will get more and more acknowledgement. And you can see, for example, Croatia getting on the news everywhere because they created a Digital Nomad Association. Jan is making really good work there. And we see Portugal, Spain mainland, Montenegro, Greece getting behind, but it's still on time. We are still on time to make something great, but we need to move fast. So yeah, my advice to Greece is just move fast, internet, community, and it's time to build. And if you do it right now, and if you start to building this now, you can be definitely one of the hotspots because country is beautiful, islands are beautiful. Here we are, me and Nacho speaking from islands, and you have really very big opportunities here. Just make it right. Don't be like other countries that just create a visa and that's it. Work with local communities, build local communities. Trust me, the key is building the local community.
Great. Thank you, guys. Let's hope that everything is gonna go well. It was nice talking to you.
Thank you, Timo. Really nice conversation. Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye.